of a made in India platform, but what we essentially do is we have really easy to integrate audio video APIs or SDKs. Basically, what that allows others is that with the shift towards a video first world, especially accelerated during the pandemic, people realize that audio video is something that everyone just expects as a de facto method of communication. The way we look at it is that there are four pillars or four steps to communication, which is text, audio, video, and then immersive experiences. And text is something that's already been there. It has a deep penetration in the market. And audio video was something that was getting started, which got accelerated heavily during the pandemic. So what we allow with Dyte is that any platform, website, app, if they want to have live audio video within their apps, they can do it with pretty much less than 10 lines of code with us in a very quick manner. And it's all customizable, which allows you to focus on your core business, your UX part of it, and not spend time worrying about integrating it, which you'll have to do with other such API providers, be it Agora or Vonage or any of the huge names that you know of. So that's what we essentially do. A bit about myself, I co-founded Dyte last year, somewhere around August, September, like end of August, early September. I co-founded it with my college friends, Kushagra, one of my closest friends from college. I've known him since my first year. We were batchmates. Then we ended up being tech chapter. Then we ended up being the core tech VPs for the same tech chapter. Have interned together. So I've known him for a very long time. Have won several hacks together. In fact, similarly, Palash, he's 2 years junior to us, but he was one of our first hires from his batch in the same chapter. This is Computer Society of India, by the way. So he ended up going ahead leading there, becoming the tech lead during his tenure of the board. So that's how I know the fellow co-founders. And we started back in August, had applied for Y Combinator. September 23rd or 24th was the deadline, if I'm not wrong, for the Winter 21 application. We it was kind of like a more of a brave, bold move that, hey guys, let's see what happens. They do write that they fund ideas. Let's figure out if we can do it. Uh, Wrote the application, filled it up, got our interview on 6th November at 3:30 a.m., which is, pretty late. Ended up staying up for the interview. The standard YC process, for people who don't know, is that you write an application, which is a pretty detailed and a long application. They go over your idea, your current progress, traction, market, everything, right? In fact, there are two parts to it. One is a company application altogether, and the second is founder application, which is individually for each founder. So they evaluate you on basis of that, and then if you get shortlisted, you get an interview, which is a 10-minute interview. Uh, you don't realize when it gets started and when it's done. It's pretty quick to the point. We went in with the idea that, hey, it'll at least be a hi, how are you doing? But it was straight away, how is it this XYZ questions about that, right? So they basically rain fire on you, which is a good part because it prepares you for probably uh, the most stringent interview you might have. And once that's done, it's just waiting. So the way they work is, if you're in, you get a phone call. If you're not, you get an email with a bit of a descriptive text of why they decided not to take you in this batch. The good part about Y Combinator is, unlike others where it's, like if you go to any B school or any kind of higher education schools, once you get rejected, there's a very unlikely chance that you'll get in once again. The good part about YC is that the more you apply, the higher you have a chance of getting in. Someone in my batch got in their seventh application with the same company and 10th application overall, right? So that just goes to show that how resilient people are for that. So yeah, we had our interview at 3:30, ended up doing well. In fact, we had requested to have it on Diet, but due to logistical reasons, that was not possible. The good part is right after the call, during the interview, we were able to tell them to go check it out. And right after the call, we saw that 5 people joined in from US, which just made us, which was something that gave us a sigh of relief that whatever it is, they can at least test the product out now, which was something that we really wanted to bank on because given the background, a lot of people won't take faith on some 20-year-old, 2 years out of college, or for Palash, in fact, just graduated kid, right, with a couple of months out of college, and he needs to sleep. So we had to not able to like sleep throughout, and got a call from Michael Siebel in the morning around 7:30ish, where he called, confirmed that we're in, and told us about how the process works, what is going to happen. That's pretty much how our YC journey was. Post which, during the batch, it's a whole different level of energy. The way people work is completely off the charts, right? I have never seen us as well working that hard, that aggressively to achieve something. And I feel it's a lot of the cohort based effect as well. That you see peers around you. So you have competition, but you have support as well. So the good part is everyone will try to compete, but it'll always be healthy competition, which means that you'll have people who you can go talk to about things that probably you can't with others, just because not a lot of people understand what it is to go through this journey. Quite frankly, I think that's how I know Shubham as well. He had reached out as a founder to ask for some advice, and that's how we got connected. So I think he understands what I'm talking about. That the best help you can get is from your fellow founders. So that is how YC works. It's a pure network effect basis of the same theory. That hey, put in a bunch of people working on different ideas together, and they'll help each other, and that's what happens. We did that. After which we also raised a seed round from marquee investors. Now, currently, the round is not public information, so I can't disclose a lot about who the investors are or what the round construct is as of now. But I can say that you'll read about it soon, probably in the next 20 days at max. So definitely something that's going to come up as an announcement from that side. Apart from that, we ended up starting to expand our team, and now we're on the phase where we are more in the, so we would say that yes, we were able to validate our early hypothesis with what we were trying to build, right? That okay, Agora is actually a pain point for people, and how to fix it, right? With that entire developer friendly APIs, adding customization should be a piece of cake, and that is the idea behind it. So once that has happened, now it's aggressively gaining your early, I wouldn't even say early, I would say your next set of customers, because early customers has obviously happened. So that's where we are at in terms of our journey with Dyte. I would love for you guys to have, go ahead, ask any questions if you have, because that would make it much more fruitful rather than me just going on and on.
Amazing. Thank you, Abhishek, for that brief intro. Guys, like when I met Abhishek, I was like raising a pre-seed round, an angel round maybe, from some investors, and I reached out to Abhishek saying this is what is happening over there. I hadn't like released my product yet. Hadn't like have a few early users as well, and I got like very blunt feedback from Abhishek that this is not something what you should look for, and that helped me out. That helped me out a lot in my journey. So thanks to Abhishek for that. And going ahead, I would like to know like how you started your MVP, how you validated your idea, as we all are in a very early stage, in a 0 to 1 stage.
Right. So the thing is, this will be very specific to us. And I'll also like to mention that if any of you have any questions specific to their idea, or particularly something that they want to do, please feel free to, reach out to me post the session as well, or just drop it in the chat and maybe we can address it towards the end. So uh, for us, it's a fairly technical product, right? So what we had to do was we ended up, by the way, so we have our own in-house stack built on top of WebRTC, which is which is a communication technology used for powering most of the audio video communication happening via web today, right? It's the same thing that Google Meet uses behind the scene, or any of the other video calling APIs use behind the scene, right? So we ended up exploring WebRTC, and as I said, right, so from August till the first week of November, all we were doing was building. We were literally just building the stack out. Um, so having a single, normal peer-to-peer call is not the biggest challenge. It was more about how to do it in a scaled manner, and that's where we spend majority of our time. So in fact, if I am able to find some images, I'd like to show you the early days of Dyte, which was essentially just one button which said start a meeting, and that's it, nothing else, right? The page was literally one button with start a meeting. And that's how we started building, right? With that clear picture that we just have to make it work. Once we were done with that, we knew that, okay, we have the tech stack in place. That's when we started talking to people about it. Now, the good thing that happened for us is we got a Your Story exclusive cover somewhere around December. What that did was it helped spread the word, and we got pure inbound traffic. So I would say that we kind of got lucky with it, that we were spot on with understanding the problem, that we got an inbound flow of people asking us to provide them the APIs, right? So we had to actually push people away and tell them that, guys, you'll have to wait for at least 6 months, at least 8 months before we go into production. We really did not make them wait for. So once that happened during Jan, we got a very heavy push that, what, guys, we will work with your beta version. Just hand it over, right? So that's how we actually developed the product, which I think was the best part for us, that we got to work with our customers, and we built the first version over the next 1.5 2 months, where every single day there were 2 to 3 releases being pushed, which is a lot. Like, quite frankly, when I say releases, I meant actual releases, not like bug fixes, but major releases. And we had that cycle for almost like a month and a half to 2 months, where we were able to polish it out. So I would say that for us, it was more of let's say a really good guess with what we were trying to solve. And then the second part was people actually validating it, and that's how we did our MVP.
That's amazing. So, what sort of response did you receive in the early days? Was it something which was like particularly ready, or was it just a button that you were talking about? So, how did you realize that you are solving a real problem out there in the market?
Right. So for us, it was very clear with the early customers that they had a problem. They were very upfront about it. People moving infra after being like 6 to 8 months on it is not something common. And as you can imagine, we are going to be a concrete part of their infra. So imagine like a net tech platform. Once they integrate that, they'll be built around it. It's not something they'll want to switch out every 2 months, right? Like, similarly, telemedicine or any of these platforms, it's more like how you have your cloud provider. You choose it carefully, but then you tend to stick with it because obviously a lot has been built on top of it, right? So regardless, even though people had spent months on it and they still wanted to move out, was one a very clear indicator. Second, we had really good mentors in terms of people we could reach out to and talk to them about how we were thinking about it, right? Uh, and lastly, I would say that we really believe in the developer first approach, right? I mean, we have seen a lot of companies grow in that space, and ourselves, the good part about it was that we ourselves would have been our customers, which means as developers, we face those issues, and that's why we were able to pick them up and tell them that, hey guys, these are the problems that we think people are facing. If I was the one using it, would I like it in this manner? If the answer were yes, we would put it as a part of the Dyte roadmap. If it was no, we would remove it. That's how we kept iterating over the product and got early signs of adoption.
Got it. Got it. And what was your early stage? Like maybe last questions from my end, then we can open it up for the floor. So what was like, when did you decide to work on Dyte, during your job, during your college, and how did you get started on this?
Okay, so there's a kind of a backstory to this. I was not doing a job when I started Dyte. The reason was I had an admit from UC Berkeley, and I was supposed to go for my master's. So actually, I was in that phase where I was just like, wrapping things up here and deciding that, hey, let's go for my master's there. Now, for I had applied for MFE, which is financial engineering, more towards computational finance, which is math algorithms. So something like, let's say, a Wall Street quants kind of role is what you would do after that. And I was fairly lucky that I got in there at an age of 23. I got accepted, but the average class age was 26, 27. So for me, this was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. But something felt off. I don't know. Like, quite frankly, Berkeley was the dream college, got in, felt very happy about it for a couple of days. And after that, it just felt that maybe I didn't want to do it yet. And maybe I wanted to focus on this. So for us, when we started, right, I had to take a call of choosing between Berkeley and Dyte. And that's when I ended up deciding to just take a leap of faith. This I would not recommend to everyone else. And I would go against it and tell people that, hey, I did my this thing right. Whereas with Kushagra, he was working at PayPal and he had like a offer to move abroad from a different company. So made him stop that. Told him that, hey, here's the deal, man. You spend some time, figure out if you think we can't do it, and if you think it doesn't work, you can always go back. You're a good tech guy. People will pay more than enough, and be happy to poach you from where you are. So let's do it. And so the first person I reached out after thinking about it was Palash. I told him that, hey, let's start something together. The good part is Palash is also kind of like that with me, like the way I am, that let's do it. We'll worry about what if later on, whenever that happens. Because for us, we were like, we had that faith in ourselves that worst case, we'll be able to find some or the other kind of job, maybe not as high paying as the ones we were currently on, but that's all right. So that is something that we had as a faith in ourselves, right? Like I knew that, okay, if not today, worst case, nothing works out. I know what I am capable of. So do my co-founders, and that is something that really helped us take that plunge very quickly. And that is something that helped me actually say no to an admit and tell them that, hey guys, I'll actually be withdrawing my application because I'm now going to work on Dyte full time. Right. So when I say we started in August, that is essentially like where we were ideating. Like, so early August is when we decided that let's do something. We decided on exploring a bunch of different problems that we thought would work out. We fixed upon one and then we started building. So that is pretty much it. It was not like a month, something that had been going on for months and months, right? And there's no story to that. What had been going on for years was the fact that all three of us have worked as a team several times in the past. We, in fact, have worked on several different projects together. So that was very clear in my head that whenever I do start something, it will be with these people, right? That is something that we had because of years of working together.
Amazing. Thank you, Abhishek. So, opening up for questions, folks can ask you directly, and please raise your hand so that we can queue you up. Are you putting it in the chat box? The questions can be around your VP. Stinson, you can spotlight Nurul.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Nurul, you can go on. Could you turn on your video, Nurul?
Just a sec, I have some issues with the camera, but
Okay, then you can go on. Yeah.
My question is that what are the value propositions you offered at the MVP stage, and what are the value propositions of Dyte that you offer now?
Right. Pretty interesting question. So, and this is something that is very important because you can't do everything as an MVP, right? Like where people get mistaken often is that let's try to build the entire product, and then they forget that the whole point of an MVP is a minimum viable product, which means that what is the least things that I can offer and still validate my hypothesis. So for us, our hypothesis was around the developer friendly using it's 50 that we made sure that we offer that, right? That was the first thing that we focused on, and that's where we got our early interest, right? Like when people saw the product out and they tested out, they were like, if you guys do have an SDK, please hand it over to us. We would like to use it, right? So that is how we started. Moving on, it becomes more of not a value prop thing, but more of, let's say, a product distinction point. So there are some things, and being quite honest about it, there are things that you do which no one else does, and there are things that you do which every other competitor does, because that's how a product works. Like you'll have to have basic things that are needed regardless, right? Like for example, in our case, if we don't have an option to screen share, we are a pretty stupid product, assuming that you can do a video and everything, but you can't screen share. So there are basic things that you definitely need. So those are the next part of set of things that we wanted to do. And then there are add-ons, right? So when you look at a product feature, there's a must-have. There is something which is basically without it, your product does not exist. And those are the things that you definitely need at an MVP level. That's it, nothing else. And then maybe one good to have, that is basically going to validate it much faster. You you should always try to put as little effort into an MVP as possible, because less the effort and the quicker the adoption is a sign of a stronger hypothesis. That's it. So if you have to build the entire product, which means that you're definitely somewhere wrong in your hypothesis with what people are looking for.
All right.
Nurul, I hope that answers your question. If you want me to
Yeah,
go
it
into
does.
specifics, please. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Sujit, you can go on next.
Thanks, Nitin. So my question is regarding the pricing. So I was looking at your website. So you have 0.4 cents per minute that you charge. How do you actually decide what is the right? How did you come to that particular pricing point? What is the methodology that you use? Because it's going to be very, very useful for every startup, right? But the how you came to that particular number, that'll be very useful.
Right. So pricing is a very challenging question. What you asked is an entire field of study that people do. Uh, and right. So there are a couple of articles I can definitely share. I'll share it with Shubham after this. There are videos about it.
Wonderful. Yeah, please.
Now I'll do that, but the way we approach it is price is more of a market concept, right? So one, you need to know the market you're serving in. Now there are a couple of ways you can get an early product out. One is to undercut the competition in a price. People do that. You see that as an approach with especially e-commerce brands, right? Your heavy discounts, try to acquire as many customers as possible. The second way is you actually price at the same level as other players in your industry are doing, and you work out, hey, if this is a price point people are used to, let's see if we can get people to pay that much. And then the third approach is, let's take it a notch up and price costlier than the competition, because we are the premium product. Now that also you'll see happening with luxury brands a lot, and not especially in the B2B infra space. The market we are in, usually you will see that most companies are pricing at the same level. competitors are similarly priced because all of them adjust according to each other. So the way we approached this was we took a competition benchmark, we priced it at the same point. Now that was because starting pricing can be in that manner. Now what we will do eventually is something where it is more about a cost factor to yourself. See, early on, if you do a theoretical cost analysis, nothing will be feasible. Quite frankly, nothing will be feasible because the moment you get into the theory of it, you'll realize you can make money. Economies of scale are different. So the way you work is that you have one, a competition analysis to benchmark a price. Second, you keep evaluating your costs behind the scene, right? And if you're able to have a generous gross margin, that is something that works, right? Eventually, profitability comes with scale. It will never come from day one because most of the businesses are not like that, right? You're not a service sector industry where you're charging a flat up markup on your time. So I would say that is one way to do it. And that is the safest way for any startup to do it rather than spending time, a complex amount of time and effort in figuring out the right pricing. Because that comes with ways where people have this, hey, increase your pricing by 10% and keep doing it till you lose, till you don't lose more than 25% of your entire crowd, because that is one way to go about it. There are different numbers to do it, and you can always keep adjusting it. As I said, right, price is the market concept, so you'll keep adjusting it, accommodating it according to the response you get. But early on, the easiest way for a lot of you would be to look at the competition and just put the price there. And if you're lucky enough to not have any competition, you're the first of your kind, then feel free to ask crazy numbers and see how people react to it, right? That is the only way you'll be able to figure out, because no matter what you want to charge, you can only charge what people are willing to pay. So you'll have to always realize that price is the perceived value the person is willing to pay for. And it's your job to make that value over time so that you can jack up prices if need. That's all.
Yeah. Does your affordability play any factor at the initial stages, or is it like, is it
It
part of your
does
cost?
depends. Okay, so yeah, it is. It is. So for us also, as I said, right, it is a part of our costing. In fact, when you go to raise a round, when people ask you, hey, how have you priced it and what are your margins, you'll need to have the answer ready. That is something definitely you might have to be working on. But as I said, that was something we were able to do much later. And that's why we priced it much later. Initially, we didn't even write anything regarding pricing, right? We wanted people to try it out. And when I say wanting people to try it out, it also helps me figure out my costs, right? If I am able to get people to use it across time, I know, okay, what is the kind of average costs I am hitting, let's say per minute as well. So that definitely helps.
One last question, if I may. When you went to YC, did you actually have
Sure.
did we lose Abhishek?
No. I'm here. I'm just moving close to the router. I think because this was like my internet was coming unstable. Sorry about that. Yes, go on.
No worries. So one last question. When you went to YC, were you still, did you not have that pricing model set in place?
Yeah, we did not. We did not. We quite
Okay.
frankly did not have it. As I said, right, when we applied to YC, we were still building. We actually
Okay.
built a lot during YC.
Okay.
So it was more about, the early hypothesis was there and validated that
Okay.
yes, that is something people want. Also, I'll give a very frank and a candid advice. Um, a lot of the times, the market you're in also plays a very good part. Given that it was the pandemic situation, video was anyway hot space that helped. And that's also one of the reasons we were picking it up initially when we decided that there are a bunch of things. Should we do this now? The question was yes. So when you evaluate an idea, there are a couple, like, or a team in general, a couple of questions come is why, which is what is the need of this, and the team as in, are these the right people? But the most important part is why now. That's something that if you have an answer to, it helps. Because if you look at it, right, like crypto now is the norm and people are going all crazy about it. When people started those companies 10 years ago, not a lot of people were even interested. So Coinbase got lucky that someone like Gary Tan ended up taking a bet on them. But there were a bunch of other players which did not survive. So it's also about the right time, right place. So definitely that helps. But yeah, pricing is something that can be worked out over time, and that should be worked out over time. I would also advise a lot of people to not spend significant time trying to figure out the pricing right, because if you have customers, that won't be a problem. You'll be able to do it very quickly. You'll be able to validate it very quickly. But if you spend too much time on that, you won't be able to build the other parts, which is actually needed to scale the business.
Thank you.
Abhishek.